put the hip shit on the shelf, cause the way the real wealth is being real itself. My eyes can see the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. It's time for me to put the hip shit on the shelf, cause the way the real wealth is being real itself. My eyes can see the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. Money, money, money. All you have is not wrong with being wealthy. Like Kanye West said, having money is not everything, not having it is. No, Deuteronomy 8:18 says God gives us the ability to create wealth. No, it's the love of money that's more. You know why money so much? Why would you have to go to work? Yes, I do about money. I'm just trying to leave a legacy for money. Not everything, but when you got it, you can do some cool stuff. Now, your host for Talking Money in the Morning, financial health mentor, the one who's right.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Talking Money in the Morning with your main man H. Cortez, the one and only financial health mentor to the working class, where I do my very best to bring practical yet proven wealth building strategies to working class men and women all over this great nation of ours. I am so pleased, honored, and privileged to have you joining us in the morning. If you're checking us out on Facebook Live, please type okay if the audio is okay. A couple days ago, I did an entire show and the audio was a mess and nobody told me. So let me know the audio is okay if you're checking us out on Facebook Live. And welcome to the show, guys. Today we have a power-packed show. We're talking about whether or not economic empowerment for Black people is an oxymoron. Can you even say financial literacy in Black community in the same sentence? We're going to talk about that today because I believe that I have some recommendations on how we can bring that to fruition. But before we do that, let's get into who this show is for. If you woke up with legacy on your brain this morning, this show is for you. If you went to bed last night visualizing where you're going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, because you know you're taking action steps daily to get you where you want to be and build that legacy, that empire that you want for you and your family, this show is for you. If you have no problem with using the tool of capitalism, using the tool as money and the resource that it is to get you and your family where you want to be, this show is for you. If you have an aspiration to be wealthy, you have the desire, you have the discipline, but maybe you just need a game plan. You need to understand some strategies to help you overcome some challenges to get you there. This show is for you, and I welcome you. Thank you for joining. If you, on the other hand, let's say who the show is not for, if you're one of those people who have that weird relationship with money, you know, those people who think wealthy people are snobs, think that capitalism is evil, think that money is evil. If you're one of those people, this show ain't for you, man. You want to go ahead and tune out right now. If you're one of those people sitting back waiting to see if Hillary's going to be elected, if Donald Trump is going to be elected so they can fix the economy instead of focusing on your economy, I got news for you. This show is not for you. You can tune out right now, because when you have that weird relationship with money, you always repel money away from you and never attract it to you. So talking or watching a show like this will get you to thinking differently about money, and you're going to attract money to you. And if you got that weird relationship with money, you don't want to do that. So this show is not for you. Telly Knight, what's up? I'm glad I have a consistent constantly explain stock to people. Okay, cool. We're going to talk a little bit about that, Telly. I appreciate that comment. So this show is not for you, man. If you have a problem with me saying the word money 30 times in the last 30 seconds, this show is not for you. You want to tune out, because I can guarantee you this. I'm probably going to say money, wealth, legacy about 300 more times in the next 25 minutes or so. So you want to tune out if you are one of those people. And also, today's show is brought to you by Discussions with Dallas and Ray J. It's alternative media, guys. So go to Discussions with Dallas and Ray J on their Facebook channel, and you can find out where they are. They do a couple of shows on the radio. They have a TV show that you can follow, but they're good people, and they bring real solutions to our community by way of media. And we've got to get more of that. Sometimes we sit back and complain about Fox News, CNN not bringing the real, but then we have real media for us and by us that we don't even support. So go check out Discussions with Dallas and Ray J via their Facebook fan page, and you can find out everything that those guys are up to. They are super cool people. I got a chance to chop it up with them on one of their shows yesterday, and they're just cool people, man. And you want to be able to have people that are on the ground floor and really understand the issues in our community that are bringing you the news and the media and that sort of thing. So check them out. Now, on to today's show. Question for you guys, Telly, is Black economic empowerment really an oxymoron? Right? That's the question for today. Can you even say Black economics in the same sentence? Can you say Black empowerment in the same sentence? Is that an oxymoron? Right? Because we've all seen for the last 100 years, 200 years, there have been talk about economic empowerment in our community, but we've seen little in the way of action to bring that to be. So that's what we're talking about today, is where is all of this economic empowerment that everybody's talking about? We know Dr. Boyce Watkins is doing his thing, trying to lift the masses and bring programs, courses, and all of that stuff. But you think about some of the great other great thought leaders, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Amos Wilson, even the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Minister Elijah Muhammad have been talking about economic empowerment in the Black community, seems like forever. And even if you go further back than that, you know, it's just been talked about and talked about. And some people have gotten movements going. You think about the great Marcus Garvey and everything that he was able to do. But why is there not a sustained economic empowerment movement in our communities? And I think I have a couple reasons why, and we'll talk about some of the solutions that I think that we can put forth and use to go forth. We're going to talk about 3 specific things that I think we need in the community in order to have sustained economic empowerment. Because when we talk about empowerment, we're talking about for generations to come. Seems like we can get a little bit of traction going, a little bit of momentum going, and it doesn't even last a full generation, right? We want this thing to last perpetually, generation after generation, for it to be built upon. So there are some practical things that we need to start looking at if we want true economic empowerment in our communities. Number one, we have to own, guys. We seem to have a real disconnect with the power of ownership. And you might be thinking to yourself, own what, H. Cortez? Everything, right? You have to own everything in your community if you're talking about building sustained economic empowerment. You have to own the buildings. You have to own the infrastructure. You have to own the politics. You have to own the police departments and the justice system. Dr. Claude Anderson talks extensively about that. You have to own everything. Supply lines, distribution chains, everything. You have to own everything. Everything that you need to survive, you should be able to produce and manufacture and retail and wholesale that to yourself and for yourself and by yourself. You have to own everything. Because you think about like this, if you don't own, then what happens when you want to expand and build, right? Think about someone who owns a business and they're leasing space, and they have an idea to rearrange that space to make the business more conducive and more effective and more beneficial for them. What do they have to do? They have to get permission to make adjustments to that space. Now, the adjustments to that space may very well benefit and make the business more profitable. But guess what? The owner of that business don't care, or the owner of that space don't care about your business being more profitable or efficient. They care about that building being in a certain way so that if you fail and they kick you out, they can bring somebody else in there just as easily. Kelly, you're right. Yes, ownership and have the pay yourself mentality. That's right. That's right. So ownership, and when you pay yourself, that's ownership, because you're buying income producing assets. You're owning assets, and that's just another way to own. Owning pieces of companies, that's just another way to own. So ownership is key if we're ever going to empower our communities economically. And you have to own everything. We know that we have a lot of small Black owned businesses in our community, and so we're starting to understand ownership of retail, right? But that's as far as we go most of the time. All we want to do is retail somebody else's product. Now, if that's where you're starting, that's fine. But we know some of these companies that have been around for 50 years and they are still retailing other people's products because they don't understand the power of ownership, right? You own a retail outlet. You are part of a distribution chain. That means you can distribute any and everybody's products. Why not create your own line of products and add that as a product to distribute? Now you have a secondary stream of income based on you having your products. Why do you think every grocery store chain has their own product brand in that grocery store? Why aren't we thinking like this when we own our small boutiques and our small retail shops, right? That's ownership. You have traffic coming in to buy everybody else's product. When you go into a Dollar General, you see Dollar General brand bleach right next to the Clorox bleach. And it's usually a little bit cheaper. Why? Because they're trying to get their brand moved. And here's the thing. A lot of times the Dollar General store brand bleach is manufactured by Clorox. So they know how to get money on both ends, but we don't seem to understand that. But you can build your brand through Black labeling like that, right? We all have restaurants. Why aren't our restaurants taking the opportunity to brand their own products? It's okay to have Heinz ketchup on the table, but you should have your own ketchup on the table too. You can have Morton's salt on the table, but have your own salt on the table too, right? You have a distribution outlet. Start using that outlet to distribute your own products. We got to understand ownership, right? We have all these retail boutiques, and I'm so proud of you guys for getting into the retail boutique space, right? But start manufacturing and producing your own brand of clothing to be distributed in those boutiques. Do it the same way Dollar General does. They make the necessity products. They don't try to go out and make all the products, right? But they make those staple products and they put their product right next to those staple products. So for instance, if you have a clothing boutique, and one of the staples that you will always see in a clothing boutique are t-shirts, right? Tank tops, things of that nature. So you can take your clothing boutique and have a rack of name brand t-shirts and boutique tank tops or whatever some of the staple items is in that store, and then you have your own Black label, your own label brand of t-shirts, and make them $1 or $2 cheaper. And guess what? When people are coming in to pick that stuff up, they will look at the name brand stuff and they say, oh, wait, here's a t-shirt. They're going to pick it up. They're going to feel it. Quality is pretty much the same. And I say, I'm going to take this because it's $1 or $2 cheaper. Now your brand starts to build. Got to start thinking ownership. Got to start thinking about the ownership of the land that we own, the land that we occupy. Why does the ghetto look like the ghetto? Because we don't own any of those buildings that are boarded up in our main streets and downtown areas in our community. And believe it or not, that's by design, right? Because if we did own those buildings and we let them stay boarded up and dilapidated for 10 years, 15 years, 25, 30 years, what is the city or the state or the county going to do? They're going to force us to sell. They're going to force us to fix that stuff up. They're going to force us to do something with that. So why aren't they forcing the other people who own that stuff in our communities to get that stuff in order so we have some respectable and some decent looking buildings? Because ghettos are built by design. right? You have to understand that. So we have to understand how to pool our resources, put pressure on the politicians, all the people and people who have the ability to make decisions, and force those people. If you're not going to sell these properties to us, then we have to force you to fix these properties up and make them inhabitable, rent them out, make them viable businesses, viable buildings, and don't let them sit dilapidated and just boarded up, right? Because if we own that stuff and we boarded it up according to the specifications by the county, they're going to say, hey, this building has been boarded up for 10 years. You got to do something with it, or you got to sell it. But we don't understand how to pool our resources. We don't understand how to put pressure on politicians and decision makers to make that happen for us. And as a result, those buildings sit dilapidated. There's no infrastructure there. That means there's no tax revenue coming in. That means there's no revenue to pay our schools and our police department to really get them up to par to do their jobs. So we have to understand ownership if we are ever going to create economic empowerment in our communities. All right. Second thing that we have to do. All right. That's number one. Second thing, we're going to talk about 3 things that we can do today to start putting ourselves in position for real economic empowerment and sustained economic empowerment. When you're saying black label or ugly, referring to private labeling, or you are ugly. Yeah, private labeling, same thing, black labeling, private labeling. Sometimes we don't have the capacity right now, Will, to get where we need to be from a manufacturing standpoint. So the beginning of that process is to partner with a manufacturer to create that stuff on the cheap for us, put our own labels on it, build our own brand, but we should still be working towards the manufacturing of it, right? I figured it was a typo, Will, so I get what you're saying. So we should always be moving towards that. So when you talk about ownership, we start with ownership of retail. Okay, we are the distribution outlet from retail, right? And then you go from the ownership of retail to ownership of wholesale, right? Maybe instead of everybody keep opening the same boutiques and the same types of businesses in our community, I get that, for instance, if you are a barber or you like that industry, we've got enough barbers, guys, I promise you. So maybe instead of you going to, still go get your license because it's a good thing to have. It's a good way to have an income stream, but maybe don't let that be your focus. Maybe your focus is, okay, we got enough barbers, but guess what? Where are all our barbers having to go to get all of their supplies from to support their craft? They're having to go get it from an Asian wholesaler usually. Well, why don't you step in and you fill that gap? Instead of becoming a barber, you become the wholesaler that supplies all the barber and the beauty stylists in your region, right? So you're still able to be in business. You're still able to be in that vertical, but you're providing a different service instead of creating another of the same. You know, how many barbers and hairstylists do we actually need? Right? So we can take that to another level. So once you own retail, then you go and start owning wholesale, right? And once you start owning wholesale, then wholesale also creates ownership of distribution, right? Because if you're owning wholesale and people are coming to buy those products and supplies from you wholesale, then you can create distribution arms. Instead of them coming to you, you set up your orders and say, you know what? We got a couple delivery vans and we're going to deliver this stuff to you every Tuesday. So you're never without your supplies and you don't have to worry about coming to get us, coming to us. Now we're creating another industry of distribution because you got to have drivers. And you don't have to be that. You just partner with someone who has a couple vans and say, hey, I want you to be my distribution arm. We've got enough business to keep 2 vans working, and you create that distribution arm. Now, that same distribution company, those drivers, they can go and partner with the wholesaler for restaurant supplies. Because guess what? Don't go and open another restaurant. We got enough restaurants. Somebody needs to be the wholesaler that supplies all of those restaurants. And when someone becomes the wholesaler that supplies all of those restaurants, that wholesaler is going to need a distributor system. And those people who own the vans and the trucks, they come and drive and be deliverer, the distribution arm of that wholesaler. So these are things that we can literally do today and start building real economic empowerment in our communities, start creating jobs in our communities today, right? But then the second thing that we have to do is we have to support those that do own. Now, let me give you a little caveat about what I mean when I say support. I love entrepreneurship, and I'm probably the biggest capitalist in the world. I just believe capitalism is a tool. It's not good. It's not evil. Any tool can be used for good and evil. It's determined by who wills or who holds that tool, right? So in the hands of the right person, capitalism can be the perfect tool to help us overcome some of these financial challenges in our community and really rebuild economic viability and sustainability in our communities, right? So I am a big capitalist, and I understand as an entrepreneur, you're first and foremost building a business or an empire for your family. But if you are the type of business owner that only wants to build a business so you can ride and buy 7 Bentleys, and you're not trying to take any of that money and put it back into the community, that's not the type of business that I'm trying to support. That's not the type of owner I'm trying to support. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot have success and that you cannot build an empire for yourself. I'm saying as an entrepreneur, I'm looking for those business owners that are about nation building to support, right? Those are the businesses that we should support and help them grow, right? That's what I mean by support in ownership. So supporting those who own. We've got to get to a place where I don't know if you guys realize we are not in the technological age anymore, right? I know we still got Google, we still got Facebook doing all of this stuff, but we are actually now entered into the age of collaboration. And if you're not willing to collaborate with others, I don't care what it is that you're doing with technology, you're not going to get where you want to be, because we are in the age of collaboration. Those who are making the biggest moves, the biggest leaps, and the biggest strides right now in this country are doing so through collaboration. All right, we've got to get out of this competition mode with one another and start more of this collaboration mode with each other. I'll give you an example. I have a restaurant. My restaurant sells burgers, shakes, and fries, right? What are the burgers served on? They're served on burger buns, right? Where should I be getting those burger buns from? The Black-owned baker next door. 2 reasons. That Black-owned baker or bakery may not be able to sell enough retail baked goods to sustain his business. But guess what? If he opened his bakery from 8 to 5 every day and he sold his little donuts and his little pastries and things like that from 8 to 5, he's going to make a little bit of money, especially if he's really good at what he does. But where should the bulk of his money be coming from to really sustain that business until his brand takes off and he can franchise all over the country like Dunkin' Donuts or something like that? The bulk of his money should be coming from all of the Black-owned restaurants. Why? Because they all sell something with bread. So they should all be getting their buns, their hot dog buns, their breads, all of that stuff should be coming from that Black-owned bakery. Their desserts, all of that could be coming from that Black-owned bakery. So guess what? He opens his little shop from 8 to 5, and he sells his little baked goods directly to his clientele and to his customers. Guess what? When he shuts down at 5, what does he do? Now he's baking all of the hamburger and hot dog buns, all of the bread loaves and everything that he's going to then turn around and supply to the Black-owned restaurants. How does that help from a collaboration standpoint? Because when you go to the Black-owned restaurant, what does the Black-owned restaurant tell you about their bread? Tells you this bread is baked fresh every day by this Black-owned baker over here. So they're not only helping you get traffic in your Black-owned restaurant, you're sending traffic back to the Black-owned baker. That's how we collaborate. That's how we build economic viability through partnerships, right? How does the Black-owned baker support the Black-owned restaurant in addition to providing the fresh baked goods, right? Every bag that the Black-owned baker has when he's selling his pastries from 9 to 5 or from 8 to 5, on his bags and his stationery, he says something like best pastries in the best baked goods in the world as showcase at XYZ restaurant. So now he's giving you cross promotion, cross marketing through the bags that leave his store every time he bags something up and sells something to another his clientele from 8 to 5. And they're looking at their bag and say, hey, I didn't know that was a Black-owned restaurant. I'm gonna go over there and check them out because I know that the buns that they have are fresh because I'm familiar with this bakery. Cross promotion through collaboration. That's what I mean by support, supporting each other, not with mouthpiece, with actual tangible product, service, with dollars. Support each other, right? And I can go on and on and on about that. And then lastly, we down to 4 minutes, guys, for the show. But lastly, we have to, the third thing that we can do and that we must do, and this is probably more important because we really will never do thing one and thing two. We will never own and we never support each other unless we first recondition this right here. We got to recondition our mindset, right? We think negatively about anything that has to do with anything that we are associated with, right? Now, again, I told you the show was sponsored by Discussions with Dallas and Ray J. I was on their show yesterday with my man Gerald, the owner of Qtopia, which is a local restaurant here in the St. Louis area, really exploding, doing big things over there. And he was talking about doing that very thing, owning everything, owning his goods and his services. But we talked about the mindset shift that needs to happen. He sat down and created a group of 100 entrepreneurs and saying, hey, we need to collaborate. We need to create a Black Chambers of Commerce so we can start setting some standards of what business ownership actually looks like, so we can create better businesses so they can be sustainable. We create this collaborative where we can lean on each other and start doing some of this cross promotion and really start building each other up. And it fell apart because we think negatively about anything that has to do that we have anything to do with. So we got to recondition the way that we think about what it is that we own, who it is that we're going to support. And just imagine this. And I love this standpoint because I'm the father of 5 sons and I'm teaching my sons entrepreneurship. If you don't teach your children about entrepreneurship, not so that they will be guaranteed to own a business, but they have to at least know that entrepreneurship is an option. We know what the school system is going to do. School systems teach your children that the only way to earn income is by working for somebody else. That's what they do. They think they give you the illusion of options when they're feeding you one option, right? Our children have to know that entrepreneurship is an option. So think about this. What happens as we're reconditioning our children and everybody you introduce your child to is an entrepreneur or a business owner? You say, hey, son, come over here and meet Mr. So-and-so. He owns this. Hey, son, come over here and meet Mr. So-and-so. We were at her shop and she owns that little boutique we went and got your clothes from. Hey, come meet this guy over here. This is Mr. Johnson. He actually manufactures, the lotion that we buy. What happens to the mindset of that child when everybody they're introduced to owns something? See, we're conditioning them that ownership is important. Now, some of us have told our children a time or two, get your own business, work for yourself. Do you think that's really going to be enough to help get them to where they want to be? When everything else that they hear all day, every day is get a job, go to school, get an education, get a job, go to school, get an education, get a job. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the programming that we put in our children has to be louder, more aggressive, and more repetitive than the junk that they're going to hear every day. Get a job, go to school, go into debt, go to college, get a job, entrepreneurship, that has to be louder, more repetitive, more aggressive than what they're going to hear. And that's how you recondition somebody. Think about it. That's how we've been programmed to get to where we are. My man, who was that? I know that was Telly, talked about investing, pay yourself first, right? But in order for that to help Telly, we have to be conditioning that has to be repeated loudly, aggressively, over and over and over and over and over again in order for that conditioning to seep in. Because what is taught to us? Pay your bills first, because you don't want to get a negative impact on your credit. You don't want your credit to go bad, so you got to pay your bills first. Pay your bills first. Pay your bills first, instead of pay yourself first. We have to recondition our minds if we want economic empowerment to become a real thing. If we want economic development in our community to be real, to be sustainable, and to last from generations to come, that will never happen unless we recondition the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about each other, and the way we think about our communities. Guys, it is the bottom of the hour, man, and I am so thankful. Yeah, Brian, if you go back to the beginning of the show when we talked about ownership, we spent a great deal talking about distribution. But that, you're exactly right. Distribution comes from ownership. When you own your own products, then you need to distribute them. When you own retail stores, you are a distribution arm for somebody's product. And we talked about wholesaling as well, because when you become the wholesaler, now you have products and you have people needing those products in mass quantities. Now you create a distribution arm to deliver those products, and that's just an added service. They don't have to come to you. You can have those products dropped off on a set schedule. And when you have a set schedule of dropping products off, what do you get? You get a set schedule of pay or income or revenue coming in because they're buying those products on a set schedule. Guys, maybe we'll do a part 2 to this thing, man, because I love talking about this stuff. I believe that economic empowerment is attainable and can be sustained if we recondition ourselves about the way we think about ourselves individually, the way we think about each other collectively, and the way we think about the power of ownership, support, and then teaching and training up our children to go in a specific way. So again, today's show is brought to you by Discussions with Dallas and Ray J. Go over to their fan page, Discussions with Dallas and Ray J. That is RAE and the letter J, and learn more about their alternative media, guys. They are bringing some good quality media to the forefront that touches on the issues that affect us the most. So you can definitely leave Fox alone, leave CNN alone, and get your news from these guys, because they're bringing it to you rough, raw, and real. And they're bringing real solutions on how you can overcome the challenges that are affecting us in our very own communities. So thank you guys a ton for coming to hang out with me this morning. We'll do it again tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know what the topic for tomorrow will be. If you got some ideas of a show related to money, things that we need to be talking about, maybe we'll take my man Telly's advice and maybe tomorrow we'll talk about paying yourself first and how that actually looks and how you can actually make that work and build some sustainable wealth for yourself. I don't know, but until I talk to you guys tomorrow, I want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. Appreciate you guys for tuning in Facebook Live. Do me a favor, share this stream on your wall so other people can see that economic empowerment for the Black community is not an oxymoron, but there are some action steps that we have to take each and every day. We have to fight to make this thing better. So until tomorrow, peace out, guys.